Nice to see you all. Let me switch to gallery view so I can see you all. Katagiri was fond of saying, stand up in the moment. I'm told that he said that a lot. And I think that's a good teaching. That applies when we're meditating. When we're meditating, stand up in the moment can mean no matter what comes up, no matter what difficulty comes up in our mind, no matter what situation, we acknowledge it and stay present with it. We don't try to run from it or hide from it. And if we're good at that in Zazen, then we're better able to do that in daily life as well. It's more likely that when we're faced with a difficult situation, rather than running away or freaking out, we will stay with the situation. We will acknowledge its difficulty and its complexity, and we'll do what we need to do. And if that happens, if we can do that in meditation and daily life, those things don't continue to fester. There is some liberation there. There is some ability to let them go, and we're more free. So I'd like to talk about that today. I would like to talk about standing up in the moment. And I think the timing is good for that. We've all probably asked ourselves now and then in the past number of months, 7, 8 months or so, how am I going to get through this exactly? What is it I need to do? And at times, everything that's going on can seem almost overwhelming. We have isolation, we have our fear of illness, we have economic insecurity, we have the election coming up, which is on everyone's minds. Will it even be all over on election night? We're not sure. Will there be mass public demonstrations? Will that be necessary? I don't know. I'm feeling more optimistic, but I don't know. But lately, I've been getting this vibe, maybe the past couple of weeks, and maybe it's just me. I really can't know. It's based on a very small sample, but I get this vibe that says, just maybe we're doing better here. Just maybe we're having a little more stand up in the momentness going on. And that's just based on people I've talked to in the past couple of weeks. That's maybe 20 people, very small sample, could just be me. But it seems like, you know, people are doing okay. Like, I am meeting this challenge. I am meeting this challenge. And if that's true, I don't know why that would be. Maybe because we've been at this for so long now. We've been isolating for what, over 7 months. Maybe you kind of reach this point of weary and grim determination where I'm going to get through this no matter what, whatever comes at me next. You know, I won't be surprised. I will just keep going. Or, you know, maybe the upcoming election has really focused people. It helped to focus me. I know when I came up, my wife and I came up with an election plan and we followed through on it. We felt a lot better. We felt like, yeah, we can do something about this. Or maybe winter is focusing us. We had that very strange early October snowstorm. We still have snow here. And we're thinking, wow, it's going to be a long winter. We're going to be spending a lot of time inside. We're probably going to have to reach kind of deep here to deal with all of this. In any case, I think this is a good time to talk about standing up. And so there's a principle I would like to kind of enunciate this morning. And it's not from a Buddhist book. It's from a book I read recently called Being Mortal. Medicine and What Matters in the End by Atul Gawande. I hope I'm saying his name correctly, Gawande, Gawande. And it's from 2014. It's been around a while. It says it was a #1 New York Times bestseller, so I guess some people have read this. A lot of people have. He's a doctor and he writes really beautifully. And this book is about basically approaches to old age and dying. And he talks about nursing homes, he talks about assisted living and hospice care, and kind of how things have developed. And he writes with really a lot of compassion and beauty about approaches to the end of life. And he mentions Zen only once in the book, but I think he gets it right. You know, a lot of times we hear people mention Zen, and it can just be kind of any bizarre thing and doesn't have much to do with the practice of Zen. But when he mentions it, he's talking about how there's this kind of thing that maybe we've fallen into, the medical community and patients as well, of thinking that extending life is the most important thing no matter what. You know, you must take any measure you can to extend life even a little bit. And he talks about how you can pay attention to the quality of life instead. And people who stopped chemotherapy sooner and saw a palliative care specialist far earlier experienced less suffering at the end of their lives. And they also lived 25% longer because they concentrated on the quality of their life. And once they gave up on the idea of extending life at any cost, they kind of relaxed, they had a better life, and they actually lived longer. So he says, the lesson seems almost Zen. You live longer only when you stop trying to live longer. And I don't think that's almost Zen. I think that is Zen. And he got it right. If you drop the emphasis on a goal, if you stop living for an idea of how the future should be, and you come back to the present, ironically, what would have been your goal had you not given it up will be fulfilled. If you don't try to get things, you get things. So I like that. That made me kind of trust his judgment, that and a lot of other things. But the passage I would like to concentrate on here is at the end of his book, kind of really the conclusion. He says, I'm just going to read about 4 sentences here. I am leery of suggesting the idea that endings are controllable. No one ever really has control. Physics and biology and accident ultimately have their way in our lives. But the point is that we are not helpless either. Courage is the strength to recognize both realities. We have room to act, to shape our stories, though as time goes on, it is within narrower and narrower confines. So I'm going to read that again. Just a second here. I am leery of suggesting the idea that endings are controllable. No one ever really has control. Physics and biology and accident ultimately have their way in our lives. But the point is that we are not helpless either. Courage is the strength to recognize both realities. We have room to act, to shape our stories, though as time goes on, it is within narrower and narrower confines. So he's talking about death and dying, but I think that has a much wider application. So there are kind of 2 elements here. First, there are things over which we have no control. And we all know there are a lot of those things. The inevitability of old age, sickness, and death. We can affect those things. We can stave them off through a healthy lifestyle, but ultimately we can't control them. What else? Well, there's the past. We can't change the past. There is coronavirus, the fact that it exists. There is isolation, the need for it. We can't change that. There's the great political divide in the country. We can't control that, at least not as individuals. Yet, we are not helpless either, right? We are not helpless. We can make healthy changes to affirm our health and to attain a longer life. We can't change the past, but we can change our response to it. We can change how we carry it around and whether we carry it around. We can't change the fact that there's coronavirus, but we can wear masks, we can socially distance, we can be careful. We can't, as individuals, affect the political situation, but as individuals, we can have a small effect. We can't change it ourselves, but we can have an effect. And together, we really can change it. So we have those two things we can do and things we can't do. And what is courage? Courage is the strength to recognize both realities. We are in some ways helpless, and there are always ways that we can help. So we all need to keep our spirits up for ourselves and others, and not just superficially. I think we need to go deep and really find what is positive within us, to keep in mind every day what we can do. So this is my message, and it's pretty simple. I think that we should never think of those things we can't control without also thinking of the things we can control, of the effort we can make that will make a difference. Courage is the strength to recognize both realities. It takes real courage to face the things that we can't change, but we need to do it. We need to do it in a balanced way. If we see only the things we can't control and we forget about our own human agency, we will despair. And it'll be despair which is born out of an inaccurate understanding of the world. It will be based on the inaccurate belief that we're powerless, because we are not. The Buddha recognized that there is great suffering in the world. That's the first noble truth. But did he stop there? No, he did not. There are three other noble truths: that you can recognize the cause of suffering and you can do something about it. And there is an eightfold path for doing this. And there are things like effort. We can make effort. Meditation. We can meditate, and that can affect our ability to meet the world. And action, right action. We can all do stuff. And it takes courage to see this half of it too, because sometimes we may get so down that we hardly have the strength to take action. We just want to curl up, probably in a figurative sense, maybe in a literal sense. We just want to curl up. And it takes courage to act in the midst of such a feeling, to kind of kick ourselves out of that. But we can do it. We can't change some things, but we can change our attitude toward things. And we can find little ways to act throughout the day. And we can take one positive step. We can stand up in the moment. We can stand up in the moment and just do one thing. Just do that one immediate thing now. That's all we have to do. We can't do anything about the fact that climate change is occurring. but we can reduce our carbon footprint. We can pressure public officials about it. We can't eliminate the need for isolation, but we can stand up. We can bear it well. We can reach out to others in new ways. Maybe we can't eliminate fear in our lives. Maybe that's an impossibility. There's probably always going to be some fear for everyone, but we can be present with it. We can meet it. We can meet it in this kind and courageous way, and we can keep it in perspective so it's not debilitating. So that's it. That's the first part of my message anyway. We do what we can do. And I have a few different ways to approach this. One day it came to me when I was sitting, the outcome I leave to the universe, the effort I can control. The outcome I leave to the universe, the effort I can control. So that's saying it a little differently in terms of outcomes. If you let the outcome go and just do the work that needs to be done, it's the same kind of principle. I thought of this recently, or rather I heard someone else talk about this in terms of tenderness and power. I was a guest speaker recently for the Twin Cities Buddhist Association, the local Jodo Shinshu group, and a meditation, Connie Tsuchiya led a meditation on tenderness and power. And I thought it was really nice. She said, tenderness and power might seem like opposite energies, but they work together. If we're going to face what we can't control, these very difficult things, we need great tenderness in order to do this. We have to be so kind. We have to be so kind to ourselves and to others to let this in and be present with it. But with that comes our power. Tenderness acts like wind at our backs in support of our power. These two things act together. And then I kept finding things that kind of confirmed this way I was thinking. And I found this phrase, turning things while being turned by things. And that is from Dogen. That is from instructions for the Zen cook. And I'm using Uchiyami's book here. And in the instructions for the Zen cook, which is about a lot more than cooking, he's talking about how you might get some really poor greens or maybe only grass to make a soup. And you'd love to make a nice cream soup, but you've only got these poor greens. And he urges the Tenzo to maintain an attitude that tries to build great temples from ordinary greens, that expounds the Buddha Dharma through the most trivial activity. When making a soup with ordinary greens, do not be carried away by feelings of dislike towards them. And he says that these things are just kind of a matter of course, how to be sort of even-handed, even-minded when cooking, yet we remain unclear about them because our minds are running around like monkeys or wild horses. If only we would step back to carefully reflect on the horse and monkey, our lives would naturally become one with our work. Doing so is the means whereby we turn things even while simultaneously we are being turned by them. So if our lives can become one with our work, there's no separation. We're turning things while they are turning us. It's a two-way street. And there's a footnote here with a similar passage from Gakudo Jinshu, points to watch and practicing Buddhism. He says, when practicing the way from the very beginning, listen to the teacher and conduct yourself in accordance with his teaching. You should remember and know thoroughly that Dharma turns the self and that the self turns Dharma. When we influence Dharma, Dharma is weak and we are strong. When Dharma influences us, Dharma is strong and we are weak. And then he goes back to saying, handle even a single leaf of a green in such a way that it manifests the body of the Buddha. This in turn allows the Buddha to manifest through the leaf. If you bring the Buddha to the leaf, then the Buddha is able to come through the leaf. If you bring your practice to this leaf, if you bring everything you have to this moment, then you can see the Buddha in the leaf. It comes back to you. You're enabling the Buddha, and the Buddha is enabling you. So this is a little different from what I said earlier. I think this takes it a little further. Dogen is not saying some things I can control and some things I can't, and I need to always remember both sides of that. That's kind of a me-centered approach, which is fine, but it's not the only way to look at it. This, Dogen, is saying thusness turns Ted and Ted turns thusness. Not I'm the victim of the universe, but I can make it tolerable, but the universe makes me happen and I make the universe happen. And this is a deeper view. I cannot help but be part of the vast interconnectedness of all things, and my dynamic functioning can be harmonious through practice, wisdom, courage, and a whole lot of day-to-day persistence. So I can, on the one hand, tell my conscious mind, consistent with the first part of my talk, to not despair, because we can always have an effect. We have room to shape our own stories. As long as we live, we have room for that. And I do recommend that we do this. And I talk to my own mind in that way every day. But if we want to go deeper, we can also simply align ourselves with the dynamic functioning of the universe through our practice. And we don't have to talk to our own mind at all. We simply practice. This is not a rational approach. Rational is great, but it's limited. So, excuse me a minute. So I have a home altar, as many of us do. And I don't know if it's going to work to show it to you. I'm going to try. It's kind of hard to, it seems like if you put something like this on Zoom, it's hard to make it work. But and sorry about the jiggling here. But yeah, maybe you can see that. I think you can. So this is my home altar. Got some pictures up here on top. I've got two Buddhas, and then I've got my son and my grandson there. I don't know if you're supposed to do that, if you're supposed to put your family up there with the Buddha, but that's what I'm doing. And it says, I think. So yeah, so this is, this little room here is my, it was my office And it's kind of made the transition to being my zendo or my monastery as I've spent more time in it and gotten more comfortable with it. And that especially happened during the Hokyoji retreat, a 5-day retreat. And during this time, my altar has just grown and grown. And you can see I've got some flowers here that I brought in before the frost. I have several Buddha figures. I have Kuan Yin. I have Avalokiteshvara. I have my cottonwood rattle, of course. And I have a lot of names on here. I have names of 9 people that Kathy and I lost over about a 2-year period when we had this incredible run of losing people. And I have names of people on little cards here. And right now I think it's up to about 17 names. I have three people who are famous people. I have Thich Nhat Hanh, Jacob Blake, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And then I have the other 14 are all people I know who are ill or injured or whom I'm worried about. So that's my home altar, and I'm going to move this again. And I turned the cards around, by the way, for privacy reasons, so no one can read them. And so every morning I go over to my altar and I bow 3 times. And I try to keep all of these people with me in my heart. And it's my wish that my bow can flow into and through all of these figures on the altar and all of these people. And it's like a prayer. Please, may the dynamic functioning of the universe happen here, unimpeded and unobscured. Please, may this not be about me. Let the great Dharma wheel turn. Let it be not about Ted, and let it not be about other than Ted. May it just happen. May these small efforts that occur in this room be the same, none other than the turning of the Dharma wheel. So this is a little beyond Ted turns the universe and the universe turns Ted. This is just the universe turns. There is no separation. It happens. We don't need any particular characters in this drama. And it doesn't need to be a drama. It just happens. It just happens. So these Buddhas and Kuan Yin and the flowers and the folks on the cards, all the same as me. And ideally, this is what I work on. The tiniest function in my life, the tiniest thing I do, how I bow, how I straighten some little thing on my desk or put something away. If I'm writing, how I shape each particular letter, how I am on the phone. Each thing is of profound importance and affects all of the universe. And so, yes, I can stand up in the moment. How can I not stand up in the moment? The moment is there. The moment is holding me up. It's not something separate from me. All I need to do is not resist. And then there is only the moment. It's just happening. So, yeah, that's what happens maybe in our finest moments. Maybe not always. Sometimes we do what we must do to get through these times. Maybe sometimes we're on a less noble level than that. Maybe we're bargaining with ourselves, bribing ourselves, treating ourselves like a troublesome little kid. I spend some time on that level, and that's okay. That's okay. That's how it is. And while we're completely accepting that that's okay, let's also remember limitlessness. Let's leave room for that. And maybe these tough times can open us up to something greater and deeper. Limitlessness, like in the Bodhisattva vows. Beings are numberless, vowing to free them. The Bodhisattva vows don't say, it's impossible to save all beings, but I'll do my best. They say, I'll do the impossible. I will save limitless beings. Is that naive? Well, in a way it is. From one angle it is. But it draws us into the realm of infinite possibilities. I think maybe we can save all beings. Things happen. Who knew that I would find this practice and it would turn my life around at one of my lowest moments? Who knew a few years ago that suddenly public attitudes about gay marriage would change and suddenly that would become a reality? I was astonished by that. What other changes are in store? Who knew that after we shut down our building and started communicating this way through Zoom, that sometimes it would seem that we're more intimate now than we were when we were together in person? So could this bad time be a turning point? A point where more people are open to radical solutions? Might we find things that we haven't even dreamed of? Might we reverse the trends of separation in our society? Might we greatly deepen our practice? We must allow for all of these possibilities. Would anyone here like to make a comment? Let me switch to gallery view here. If you would like to comment, please just unmute yourself.